Hey everyone, you only need to go on Reddit for a few minutes to see yet another story of a melting 12-volt power connector. So either the end has melted in the graphics card, or the cable is burnt up, or on the PSU side, which completely sucks. And then you get loads of inevitable comments saying, why did NVIDIA change things? Why did they move away from 8-pin and go to the 12-volt power connector? And here's the confusing thing. It was actually Intel that introduced the 12-volt power connector, not NVIDIA, and also AMD actually used the 12-volt power connector in 2 of their graphics cards. So I wanted to talk about it in this video. So firstly, part of the confusion is that NVIDIA haven't been very good at communicating these changes or the need for them to consumers. For example, with the RTX 30 series, some of the higher end cards used a 12-pin connector, and that was kind of a precursor to go into the full 12-volt power connector for the RTX 40 and 50 series. And yeah, I mentioned NVIDIA there, so why am I mentioning Intel and AMD in the intro? The thing is, Intel actually published the ATX specifications. So ATX are the sort of power standards, and ATX 3.0, which introduced 12-volt power, was actually sponsored by Intel, although NVIDIA did actually work with them to actually push out the 12-volt power connector, so that's where Intel come into things, even though Intel then don't use 12-volt power at the moment in any of their GPUs. But why did NVIDIA want to use it, and why do AMD also use the connector in some cases, even though it melts? Well, NVIDIA haven't actually been very good at communicating any of this to people, but there is actually some problems with the 8-pin power cable. I mean, in general, it's good, it has more safety headroom than the 12-volt power, but the problem with the 8-pin connector is it doesn't always supply enough power, because the base ATX specifications only state that the 8-pin cable can actually supply 150 watts. Now, in some cases, depending on the wire gauge, the actual cable can supply up to 288 watts, but in some cases, cheaper PSUs will only make a cable that can supply 150 watts, and that used to be enough when you had like a GTX 1080 Ti that would top out at 250 to 300 watts of power, but nowadays it's not enough. We've got the RTX 4090 that uses 400 watts, and we've got an RTX 5090 that uses 600 watts. So, having a cable, an 8-pin one that could potentially only supply 150 watts of power isn't enough, because you don't really want an RTX 5090 GPU to literally have 4 power connectors and you plug in 4 PCI Express cables. That wouldn't look very good, but also many power supply units don't actually give you 4 separate PCI Express cables, so yeah, it just wouldn't work out. And that is why NVIDIA started playing around with a new design with the RTX 30 series, and they came up with a new cable that kind of was proprietary, and so they said, right, actually let's work with Intel to come up with ATX 3.0 and introduce the 12-volt power cable, because that actually is designed to supply 600 watts. And the cable and the connector as a whole doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, even though with ATX 3.0 there was an issue where it wasn't always being plugged all the way in, and that's why ATX 3.1 came out and actually improved things. It changed the conductors and the sensing pins to make things safer. But if you actually look at those changes, then 12-volt power doesn't have to be unsafe inherently, but in practice it is, because of how NVIDIA are actually designing their GPUs. So both the 40 and the 50 series, which have had melting issues, basically the PCB on the graphics card is kind of accepts the power in a way that doesn't allow any load balancing on the cables. So basically the 12-volt power has 12 cables coming out of it, 6 voltage and 6 grounds, and then you've got more for the sensing pins, but we'll ignore that for now. But of those 6 actual power cables, there's no load balancing allowed on them, essentially due to the NVIDIA are actually designing the GPUs. And that lack of load balancing is a major issue, because it means then you've got an RTX 5090 that is drawing so much power that if 1 or 2 of those actual power wires going into the GPU has an issue, maybe there's a short connection or something, then all the remaining current is going down the 4 remaining wires, and that can then lead to actually pin burnouts and stuff, which is what we've seen on Reddit a lot. So that is the main issue, and not with the 12-volt power connector. And that is why AMD have actually got 2 of their 9070 XT graphics cards that use that connector. They've actually decided that things would look a lot neater if they just had a single 12-volt power cable going into it. And there was a single story, I believe, of that melting, which is really worrying, but at the time of filming, that seems to be a one-off, because in general, the 9070 XT doesn't draw enough power to actually have melting issues in the same way that like the RTX 5090 does. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any further questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video, please click the thumbs up button, and please subscribe to see more short videos like this. Thanks for watching.